living with monks.
Yes.
What is it called?
Living with the monks.
Living with the monks. Why'd you decide to do that? And how long did you do it for?
I did it for 15 days.
That's enough.
That's more than enough, man.
High in the frozen Himalayas, a lost group of ancient monks has been found alive, meditating in near absolute stillness. Their survival is astonishing, but it's what they're guarding that has experts alarmed. Deep within the Ranggu Monastery lies a rumored relic said to bend time, unlock consciousness, or even end the world. As modern discovery encroaches, some fear we've awakened something that was never meant to be disturbed.
Some experts on Buddhism said that the mummified monk is generally thought to have died in the 19th century or 200 years ago.
What secret have these monks protected for centuries? And what happens now? You have the power of levitation. In the remote and unforgiving Himalayan peaks, whispers of ancient monks still alive, seated in deep meditation and seemingly untouched by time.
This ritual of self-mummification was commonly practiced by monks in the Shingon sect of Buddhism.
Have both captivated and unsettled researchers and spiritual seekers alike. These monks, hidden away in near impossible conditions, spark more than curiosity. They stir fear, awe, and the sense that something far greater than we understand is unfolding in silence. These figures remain shrouded in mystery. Their ability to survive in absolute isolation has led to rumors of secret knowledge, divine rituals, and ancient relics buried in their spiritual lineage. What are they guarding with such relentless devotion? Why choose exile in a place where most living beings could not last a day? Are these monks safeguarding truths that could elevate humanity or tear it apart? And now, the world begins to ask, what lies beyond the veil of their silence? At the edge of the known world, in China's frigid and towering region of Tibet, stands Ranggu Monastery. Often described as the highest monastery on earth, it rises above a desolate stretch of ice and sky, where snow dominates the landscape and temperatures plunge to levels that should break human endurance. But to one monk, this place isn't a death sentence. It is sacred ground. He lives without fire, without walls, and without fear. No records confirm his age or how long he has stayed at Ranggu Monastery. His name remains unknown. Locals speak of him with reverence and caution, as if saying too much might invite forces beyond comprehension. But those rare few who have glimpsed him agree on one thing. His presence is unlike anything they've ever encountered each morning. Before the sun rises over the jagged white ridges, he begins a ritual that would freeze most people in moments. He steps out barefoot into the wind-whipped snow, hands bare, body exposed. He scoops up chunks of snow and closes his palms around them, allowing the cold to sink deep into his bones. This is not a stunt. It's his sacred practice. Rather than flinch from the frostbite-inducing cold, he lets it become a part of him. He stands there, still and silent, as the ice slowly melts in his hands. When it finally liquefies into a single, trembling pool, he drinks it slowly, savoring every drop as if it carries spiritual energy. This is the only water he consumes, melted snow, warmed not by the sun but by his own life force. And that's not the only thing he has given up. He has also renounced food. Travelers who stumble upon Ranggu Monastery rarely see him eat. If he does, the portions are so tiny and infrequent that they seem more symbolic than sustenance. Instead, he draws energy from within, from the breath in his lungs and the power of focused meditation. Hours pass each day in total silence as he sits, legs crossed, spine erect, chanting ancient mantras into the frozen stillness. His breath rises in clouds, his voice low but steady. The chants ripple through the air, harmonizing with the wind, as if nature itself responds to his vibration. What keeps him alive in such conditions? What is it that fuels his body and sharpens his mind when there's no heat, no food, no comfort? The monk's discipline. It's discipline, but not the kind you learn in textbooks or training camps. This is a discipline rooted in complete surrender. He doesn't try to conquer the cold. He merges with it. He doesn't resist hunger. He dissolves the desire. For him, emptiness is not the absence of life, it is the gateway to divine presence. He believes the key to transcendence lies in surrender. In giving up the human need for warmth, comfort, and self-preservation, he creates space for something else to enter, something vast, eternal, and deeply transformative. He seeks communion with Shiva. Shiva, in Hindu belief, is not merely a deity of destruction. Shiva represents the eternal dance of creation and dissolution, the energy that breaks everything down in order to birth something new. The monk believes that by stripping himself of identity, ego, and physical dependency, he can touch the raw, burning essence of Shiva itself. And in that divine fire, he levitates, not with his body, but with his soul. As the wind howls outside Ranggu Monastery, and snow continues to fall in endless waves, he remains still. His body no longer fights the elements. It has become a part of them. The snow does not bury him. It blankets him like a second skin. The silence does not isolate him. It expands his awareness. He doesn't resist death. He welcomes the lessons it brings. Because to him, survival is not the goal. Transcendence is. And that's what makes him more than a legend, more than a myth. That's what makes him a mystery worth unraveling. Somewhere in the vast, blinding cold of the Himalayas, a man chooses to live as if the physical world no longer binds him. Whether he guards ancient wisdom or seeks personal liberation, he represents a truth many fear to face. Living beyond limits, the monk who mastered the mountain. Even in brutal cold, this monk moves with a sense of purpose few can understand. Surrounded by a white abyss of wind and silence, he walks a path not guided by survival but surrender. Each day, he exposes himself to the elements, sub-zero winds and snow underfoot, and yet he never falters. Most would struggle to breathe at this altitude, let alone carry on with any sort of routine. But for him, this life of solitude and ritual is a sacred vow. With no fire, no modern shelter, and seemingly no food, he survives by turning inward. When he lifts snow in his bare hands, not to clear it, but to melt it with his body heat for drinking water, it isn't just survival, it's ceremony. His relationship with discomfort is not one of fear, but of intimacy. He embraces it. Instead of resisting the cold, he merges with it. Instead of fighting hunger, he transcends it. He does not beg nature to spare him, he lets it reshape him. Each morning, before the sun even touches the horizon, he chants ancient mantras into the wind. His voice echoes into the void, not for the world to hear, but to align with something greater. To him, the absence of comfort is not suffering, it's purification. He believes surrendering his physical needs opens the door to a divine energy linked to Shiva, the force of transformation, and it's through that connection that he claims to find strength, not from flesh, but from spirit. In 2020, a video stunned the world. A climber, secured by ropes and harnesses, moved slowly up a steep, vertical cliff, but beside her, a barefoot monk scaled the same cliff with no equipment.
A monk climbing a steep rock mountain is going viral on the social media as the monk is seen climbing the mountain without any equipment or harness.
No hesitation and no visible strain. He looked more like he was walking across flat ground than a wall of stone. The contrast between the two was surreal. Viewers watched in disbelief as he navigated the rock face with the grace of someone dancing. No safety ropes, no shoes, just complete trust in his own body and mind. People flooded the internet with comments and theories. How could he do it? Was it superhuman strength? Years of secret training? Many credited it to decades of yoga, meditation, and a lifestyle designed to master fear. Instead of climbing straight up, he moved laterally, zigzagging across the surface. This method, both efficient and strategic, reduced the risk and allowed his body to adjust without overexertion. But even more impressive than his technique was his composure. He didn't panic. He didn't rush. He stayed present, aware, and calm. That calm is the true power behind the climb. Monks like him spend years training not just their muscles, but their minds. They meditate to reduce fear. They study breathwork to stay in control. In their worldview, fear is not an enemy. It's a distraction. To conquer it, they don't fight it. They quiet it. For these monks, climbing a mountain isn't just a test of endurance. It's a spiritual act. It's about syncing the body with nature and proving that the mind, not the rope or the gear, is the strongest lifeline. The viral video was more than just a stunt. It was a window into a philosophy that believes mastery of the inner world leads to mastery of the outer one, the reincarnated leader. In the rolling hills of Tibet, the search for the next Karmapa,
Rangjung Rigpe Dorje, the 16th Karmapa, was born in Tibet in 1924.
feels less like politics and more like prophecy. When one Karmapa dies, monks begin the sacred process of identifying his next reincarnation. Visions, sacred writings, and cosmic signs guide them to the new vessel of their spiritual lineage. In 1985, that vessel appeared in the form of a boy named Apogaga. Born to a nomadic family, his life began with a swirl of strange signs. His mother dreamt vivid symbols. Birds perched silently outside their tent. The surrounding valley echoed with strange sounds. To locals, these were not coincidences. They were messages. By the time he turned 4, Apogaga was already immersed in monastic learning. At 7, he declared to his parents that they must move their camp. Soon after, monks arrived with a letter penned by the previous Karmapa before his death. The letter described where his next reincarnation would appear and under what circumstances. Every detail matched Apogaga's life. He was quickly confirmed as the 17th Karmapa Ogyen Trinli Dorje. The Dalai Lama approved the recognition. Even the Chinese government, rarely supportive of Tibetan tradition, acknowledged him. He began his formal training at Ranggu Monastery, home of the Karmapas. One of his most powerful roles includes leading the Black Hat ceremony. The hat, said to be made from the hair of celestial beings and blessed by the Buddha, symbolizes his spiritual authority. When he wears it, believers say it amplifies his presence and unites the material world with divine energy. Today, he stands at the intersection of ancient tradition and modern relevance. He speaks about peace, climate change, and compassion, carrying the legacy of centuries while addressing the needs of today's world. In 2015, researchers studying an old Buddha statue made a shocking discovery. Hidden inside wasn't clay or metal, but a body. Perfectly preserved, it sat upright in lotus position. They soon identified it as the remains of a monk named Luan, who had undergone the extremely rare and brutal process of self-mummification. This practice, limited to only a few Buddhist lineages, pushes the boundaries of human endurance and spiritual devotion. Unlike other mummification methods, which occur after death, this process begins while the practitioner is still alive. The monk prepares by eliminating all fat from the body. He eats nothing but bark, roots, and herbal teas designed to dry out his internal organs. Over years, he slowly starves and dehydrates himself while continuing to meditate. Eventually, he seals himself in a tomb just large enough to sit in meditation. A small breathing tube and bell let others know he's still alive. When the bell stops ringing, they seal the tomb completely. If the body resists decay after death, it confirms the monk's spiritual purity. To followers, such a body isn't a corpse, it's a sacred relic. It represents someone who fully conquered the cycle of birth and death. The mummified remains found inside the statue were not hidden as a mystery. They were revealed as a message that the ultimate act of devotion is to surrender not only the body, but the very need to cling to life. The monk who became a statue. In a temple tucked away on Thailand's Koh Samui Island stands one of the most astonishing sights for visitors and spiritual seekers alike. Wat Kunaram houses the upright preserved body of Luang Pho Deng, a revered monk who passed away in 1973. Unlike most memorials, this one doesn't rely on paintings, statues, or plaques. Instead, the monk himself sits frozen in time, enclosed in a glass case, his features still remarkably intact despite the decades that have passed. Tourists and pilgrims enter the temple and stop in silence, drawn to the sheer presence of a man who seems to have defied decay. His posture remains calm, seated in the traditional meditative position. His facial expression offers no sign of struggle, only peace. Time, it seems, has chosen to leave him alone. Luang Po Deng devoted his life to the teachings of the Buddha. Those who knew him remember a man who embraced moderation and encouraged moral living. He wasn't just a spiritual leader, he became a symbol of discipline, daily meditation, and clarity of mind. In the final days of his life, he sensed the end drawing near. Rather than shrink from death, he welcomed it with purpose. He informed his followers that he wished to leave his body in a way that could inspire faith and reflection for generations to come. When the time came, he passed away while meditating, quietly, without fanfare. His followers followed their traditional rites and prepared to honor his body, but soon they realized something unusual. His remains were not changing. There were no immediate signs of decay. His skin, posture, and features remained as they had been, as if he had only just entered a deeper state of meditation. Some attributed the preservation to natural causes. The dry air of the temple and his plant-based diet may have contributed to slowing down decomposition, but for many, the answer ran deeper. They believed that his lifelong commitment to spiritual practice allowed his body to hold a state of serene balance that resisted physical breakdown. Medical professionals who examined the body over the years found no logical explanation. His condition defied typical post-mortem expectations. And while science may one day uncover more clues, the sight of him still seated, seemingly untouched by time, continues to invite awe and reverence. The temple didn't treat his preserved body as a relic to be hidden. They placed him in full view, not to glorify death, but to celebrate a life so aligned with inner stillness that it left a lasting impression on the world. Visitors pause not just to look, but to reflect. In Luang Po Deng's stillness, they see more than a body. They see a message about discipline, devotion, and what the human spirit can achieve when it turns inward. Many monks in the Thai Buddhist tradition practice meditation to such a depth that it becomes their entire worldview. They don't view death as an end, but as a transition, and they prepare for it with intention. Luang Pho Deng's case stands out because he asked to be remembered in a specific way. He didn't want flowers or grand rituals. He asked to be a visual symbol, a reminder of spiritual clarity that outlasts the physical form. And so, there he remains. Decades after his passing, the monk who chose stillness over spectacle sits upright in his glass case, a living legend preserved by more than just the dry climate. He represents the possibility that through focused practice, a human being can leave behind more than a memory. They can leave behind a presence. In a world full of movement, noise, and distraction, Luang Po Deng chose stillness, and still he speaks. The monk who became a statue. While scientists can point to factors like diet, climate, and environment when explaining long-term body preservation, the mystery surrounding Luang Pho Deng remains. Some observers believe his remarkable condition after death came from years of intense spiritual discipline, a harmony between mind and body that did not simply vanish when he passed. Others take a more spiritual view, suggesting that his unwavering focus and purity of heart created a state that resisted decay entirely. Because of this unique preservation, followers left Luang Pho Deng exactly as he was at the moment of his death, seated in meditation. They placed sunglasses over his eyes, which had changed with time, but made no other major alterations. His posture and presence have become a powerful symbol, not of death, but of calm, resilience, and devotion. He sits enclosed in glass at Wat Kunaram, not as a relic to be gawked at, but as an embodiment of a life lived with purpose. Visitors come from all over to see him. Tourists arrive expecting curiosity, but often leave with quiet reflection. His body, still intact, invites people to question what it truly means to live with awareness, and to die with it, too. The monks at Wat Kunaram don't present him as a miracle, they present him as an example. His stillness suggests that through persistent discipline, faith, and detachment from the material world, a person can transcend even the limits of biology. For many, Luang Pho Deng is more than a monk. He's a message carved in flesh and silence. Bodhidharma, the father of Shaolin Kung Fu. Bodhidharma, the legendary Indian monk who lived sometime in the 5th or 6th century, reshaped the spiritual and physical landscape of China. He didn't arrive quietly. His journey and teachings, though wrapped in legend, reflected a profound challenge to superficial spirituality. Unlike many others of his time, Bodhidharma rejected elaborate ritual and empty praise. He focused instead on inner transformation through personal experience. When he first arrived in China, he encountered Emperor Wu of Liang, who proudly listed his contributions to Buddhism, building temples, funding scriptures, and asked what merit he had gained. Bodhidharma's blunt answer shocked the emperor. He told him such deeds carried no merit if they lacked true insight. To Bodhidharma, enlightenment came not from actions performed for status or tradition, but from confronting emptiness and understanding the nature of the mind. From there, Bodhidharma traveled to the Shaolin Temple. There, according to legend, he sat motionless in a cave for 9 years, meditating as he stared at a wall. Stories say he once tore off his eyelids to stay awake, an act meant to show his fierce devotion to inner stillness. These tales, though extreme, reflect a deeper message. Real spiritual growth demands discipline and endurance. During his time at Shaolin, Bodhidharma saw that the monks struggled physically. Their endless sitting made them weak and sick. He created movement-based practices to strengthen them, exercises that would evolve into the beginnings of Shaolin Kung Fu. These weren't just physical drills. They were tools to sharpen focus, calm the mind, and integrate the body with spiritual purpose. His impact extended beyond the martial arts. Bodhidharma laid the foundation for the Chan tradition of Buddhism, which Japan later adopted as Zen. This path placed direct experience above scholarly debate. To awaken, a person had to meet their true self, not in books or rituals, but through honest, solitary confrontation with the mind. To this day, monks, martial artists, and seekers revere Bodhidharma. They view him not only as the father of Shaolin Kung Fu, but also as a model of authentic inner strength. He stood as a reminder that the body, when trained with awareness, becomes a vessel for wisdom, and that truth often lies beyond surface appearances. Mappa, the translator. In the harsh, remote landscape of 11th century Tibet, knowledge was not only sacred, it was scarce. Language barriers and treacherous geography separated Tibetan monks from the heart of Buddhist wisdom in India. But Mappa Lotsawa, known as Mappa the Translator, changed that. Born around 1012, Mappa risked everything to retrieve the teachings at their source. He crossed the perilous Himalayas on foot, navigating snow-covered passes and dodging bandits in search of truth. Mappa wasn't just a collector of texts. He immersed himself in the teachings of India's most revered sages, including Naropa, a tantric master whose methods demanded personal transformation, not just intellectual understanding. Mappa studied deeply, not from a distance but face to face with the masters. They didn't simply hand him knowledge, Mappa had to earn it. He meditated, practiced, and embodied the teachings before receiving full transmission. When Mappa returned to Tibet, he didn't just hand over translations. He worked meticulously, ensuring the words and spirit of the teachings survived the journey between cultures. He didn't translate by rote. He translated with reverence, capturing not just syntax, but the heartbeat of the wisdom. His work made it possible for Tibetans to connect with the Dharma in a personal and immediate way. Mappa's translations became the foundation of Tibetan Buddhism as it is known today. He opened the door for future generations to explore the same insights he had traveled so far to gain. But perhaps more importantly, he showed that spiritual understanding requires effort, risk, and deep sincerity. His life proved that devotion to truth, no matter how distant, can bridge impossible gaps. Even now, Tibetan monasteries revere Mappa not only for the texts he brought, but for the path he walked. In every chanting hall, where students recite sutras in Tibetan, his invisible legacy continues to echo. He built a bridge from the mountains of India to the valleys of Tibet. One word, one prayer, one breath at a time. Mappa's final legacy, the student who became a saint. Among Mappa's many contributions to Tibetan Buddhism, His most lasting impact might be his mentorship of Milarepa, one of Tibet's most beloved and revered spiritual figures. But Milarepa's journey to enlightenment was anything but easy. Marpa didn't greet him with open arms or soothing words. Instead, he subjected Milarepa to a series of harsh physical tasks, commanding him to build and then tear down stone towers again and again. These weren't punishments. They were spiritual tools designed to burn away Milarepa's past karma. Through these acts of forced labor, Milarepa confronted the guilt and pain of his previous wrongdoings. Only after enduring these grueling trials did Marpa begin to teach him the advanced meditation techniques that would ultimately guide him toward liberation. This method of purification through effort became a cornerstone in Milarepa's transformation, not just into a sage, but into a living legend whose songs and poems continue to inspire. Through his translations, teachings, and mentorship, Marpa ensured that entire generations of seekers had access to spiritual treasures that once lay hidden behind language, geography, and tradition. By guiding Milarepa and helping form the Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism, Marpa didn't just pass on ancient knowledge, he helped breathe new life into it. Sri Ramakrishna, the saint who embraced all paths. Born in 1836 near Kolkata, India, Sri Ramakrishna grew up in a poor yet deeply devout Hindu household. From an early age, he displayed a hunger for the divine that went far beyond the rituals of daily worship. When he became a priest at the famed Dakshineswar Kali temple, his devotion to the goddess Kali went far beyond formal duties. He immersed himself in prayer and meditation with such intensity that he would often fall into prolonged states of spiritual ecstasy. Temple-goers frequently found him lost in trance, seemingly detached from the physical world. But what made Ramakrishna's path so unusual wasn't just the depth of his Hindu faith. It was his boundless curiosity about other religions. He didn't just preach tolerance. He practiced the faiths of others as if they were his own. He delved into Christianity, meditating on the image of Jesus and feeling the divine presence there. He later practiced Islam, reciting Allah's name and finding profound peace in Islamic prayers. To him, all religions revealed the same divine truth through different expressions. His message was clear and radical for the time. Every religion is a valid path to God. In a deeply divided society, Ramakrishna's view shattered religious boundaries. People from all faiths visited him, not to convert, but to experience his unconditional love and spiritual clarity. He didn't teach doctrine as much as he taught direct experience of the divine. His storytelling, humility, and vivid analogies made his lessons accessible to people from all walks of life. Ramakrishna's most famous disciple, Swami Vivekananda, later spread this message to the world. Vivekananda's lectures and speeches, especially at the Parliament of the World's Religions in 1893, introduced Western audiences to Ramakrishna's philosophy of religious unity. He founded the Ramakrishna Mission and Ramakrishna Math, organizations that continue to combine spiritual practice with social service. They build schools, hospitals, and shelters, proving that spiritual devotion and worldly compassion don't have to exist apart. Ramakrishna's legacy rests in the idea that faith can be both deep and wide, that true devotion doesn't separate, but unites. He showed the world that spiritual insight doesn't depend on the name one calls God, but on the sincerity of the seeker's heart. The 200-year-old monk of Mongolia. In the frigid steppes of Mongolia, scientists and spiritual communities alike were left speechless by a haunting discovery. Inside a remote monastery, they found the preserved body of a Buddhist monk, still sitting upright, cloaked in traditional robes, eyes closed in eternal meditation. Believed to be around 200 years old, the body appeared untouched by time. Locals claimed he had entered a rare meditative state known as tukdam. Tukdam refers to a transitional phase between life and death, where monks enter such deep meditation that their biological functions nearly cease. Yet, unlike death, this state maintains a subtle thread of consciousness. Monks in tukdam can remain upright, sometimes for days, without showing signs of decay. But 2 centuries? That stretched even the boldest spiritual theories. Scientists first suspected a natural explanation. Mongolia's cold, dry climate might have preserved the monk the way permafrost preserves ancient remains. Others guessed that diet, possibly rich in antimicrobial herbs, played a role. Some even believed that high-altitude living may have lowered the oxygen and moisture in his body tissue, helping to delay decay. But those who follow the faith saw something deeper. They believed that his intense practice and spiritual mastery allowed him to cross into a dimension where time and biology hold less sway. In their eyes, he hadn't died in the ordinary sense. He had chosen to remain in meditation, holding a thread between this world and the divine. They pointed to ancient texts and whispered records that hinted at practices meant to sustain consciousness beyond bodily limits, though few of these writings have ever been found. What stood before them was more than a corpse. It was a symbol of just how far the human spirit can go. Whether one views it as a scientific anomaly or spiritual proof, the monk's body challenged the very boundaries of life and death. For believers, he was a reminder that true mastery over the self, when driven by purpose, discipline, and faith, might unlock powers that the rest of us can only begin to imagine. These monks, sages, and seekers, whether climbing mountains barefoot, translating forgotten scriptures, or sitting in meditation for centuries, have all demonstrated something powerful. That spiritual devotion, when practiced to its furthest extent, reshapes what we believe is humanly possible. From Marpa's mountain journeys and Ramakrishna's universal embrace to the 200-year-old monk who defied decay, these stories aren't about superstition or spectacle. They're about dedication, clarity, and the ability of the mind and soul to reach extraordinary states. While the modern world pushes us towards speed, noise, and distraction, these figures remind us that quiet strength, humility, and inner stillness still hold unmatched power. Whether or not we walk their paths, we can't ignore the question they quietly ask. What might we be capable of if we truly trained our minds, embraced discipline, and lived with intention? Alright, so that's it for this video, and if you want to watch more amazing content like this, check out some of our other videos. Bye!